Okay, we're good.
All right. The time being 5:30, I'll call to order the February 1st, 2022 Tilton Northfield Fire and EMS Board of Commissioners meeting. Let the record show that present are all three commissioners, Chief Sitar, Catherine Tovine, Tim Joubert, and two members of the public. Which I'm sure we'll find out their names later on. That's okay. No, that's
Alan
okay.
Clark and
Crystal Liberty.
All right. I think I read their names somewhere today. So. All right. First up is public comment. We could all squeeze across the table here together.
We used to.
Yeah, and COVID came along. Any public comment? Nope. Hearing none, we'll move on. Members of the district, employees of the district. No? Okay. All right, next up, correspondence. 11322 Fire Station Building Committee.
right, that was an email that they sent you.
Oh, that's right, about
Right.
these fine folks.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
That's right. I've been looking at that since yesterday, and I just remembered what it was, so. All right, so we have that. Do we need to read? Do you have a copy of it in here, or is it?
I didn't put it in.
I do have
I can
it.
find it.
January 13th, Kevin Cate, but he's the chairperson of the building committee. Commissioners at the meeting of the Tnfd building committee on 1/12/22, it was unanimously decided by the committee to recommend that the commissioners request a detailed proposal outlining costs of tasks for Mr. Alan Clark of REI Service Corporation. I believe I can speak for all members present in saying that we were very impressed with his presentation and believe that he can help to facilitate a successful vote for a new fire station. We respectfully ask that you consider and vote on this recommendation at your next scheduled meeting. Two additional items as well. Committee member Julia Chase has missed 3 consecutive meetings and we have no means of contacting her. We ask that she be removed from the committee. Lastly, the need for additional members continues. We ask that someone within the fire district place on the district website, the 2 town websites, and on relevant community pages on social media, the need for additional community members. Respectfully, Kevin Cate.
All right. Did we put it on the website?
It is on the website.
Okay.
You didn't get any volunteers yet?
No.
No.
I'm working on one person right now.
I can't think if I saw it on social media or not.
I know that Kevin Waldron moved it to a couple of Northfield pages from
We
that.
did do that,
Yeah.
yes.
I think I saw it.
Because I asked her in the meeting for it to go onto our page and then shared from that page out to, rather than someone generating their own posting.
Well, I just discovered a couple of Tilton ones in like the last 2 days, so we'll get it out there.
Just share it to it then.
Yep. And then correspondence on 113, A Popular Day, Westcott Law.
That was the email that the chief forwarded to you regarding the,
Oh, the trial.
Trial.
Yes. We've met since, did we meet since then? Because I feel like we talked about that briefly. No. All right. That was the November date, right?
yes.
Yes, the end of November, beginning of December.
Okay.
The whole window of 2 weeks, it looks like.
Yes.
Mhm.
Good. So we'll see what happens there. All right. Anything else regarding that, or
No,
Nothing,
no words from the water department or anything?
no.
nobody from that department speaks to me.
Okay. All right. Next on our agenda, should we shift around?
Yes.
Yes,
Jump right
please.
here.
Why don't
Where
we,
we have people here.
Yep. Jump right ahead.
Let's do old business.
Old business, Alan Clark. Hey, look at that.
Thank you.
If you want to have a seat here, I don't know if you want, because this way the reporter will pick you up a little bit better. No, if you want to slide right up, go right ahead. We'll push John down that way a little bit.
I'm okay. I've read it all already.
You probably wrote it.
I did not.
This is, I'm assuming, isn't there like a mounting company called REI too?
Yes,
There
we
is.
take
Okay.
phone calls all the time.
All right, no, I just,
They were based out in Seattle, Washington, and then they have a store now in Massachusetts.
yeah, it's like down in Reading or something like
We
that.
get the calls all the time. So anyway, you know who I am. Crystal Liberty is the owner of the company now. I gave the company to the employees. She's the executive vice president and waiting anxiously for me to retire, I think, so she can be the president. But in the meantime, I continue to do some work. I wanted Crystal with us. She just flew in last night, or this morning at 1:30 from St. Thomas. And
I feel
somehow,
sorry for you.
yeah, somehow I haven't had a vacation in 3 years. So something's wrong with the whole equation.
You're working on a fire station that St. Thomas wants to build?
I was paying attention to their public safety buildings while I was there.
So Crystal and her husband Shane both work for the company. Shane's expertise is really the nuts and bolts of construction, so he gets involved in some of those areas when necessary. Crystal kind of works behind the scenes, and she does any of the research and purchasing of equipment and making certain that those type of things happen. But I wanted at least Crystal to be here so that you know the company is about a dozen people, and so should something happen to me between Shane and Crystal, they would simply pick up and move forward. Back in I think December we met, and I just kind of gave you an overview. It wasn't, you know, I wasn't at that point in time trying to promote ourselves, but promote the concept of having a project manager to move this project along. My experience has always been that though building committees have the best of intention, unless there's somebody that's kind of working on it full time, it just, for whatever reasons, it's hard for it to move forward. So when I was hired by Franconia, they had gone to 12 town meetings and lost every time. When I was hired, we passed with, I don't know, 87% vote. Twin Mountain was similar. I don't know, they had messed around for 9 or 10 years. When I was hired, they're an SB2 town, went to town vote, and it was during the blizzard, and they lost by 2 votes, and I know at least 4 firefighters that didn't vote because they thought it was going to go back. We went back with the exact same. We made no changes, other than we expanded the committee and worked a little harder in trying to educate the public on what we were doing. The no votes were exactly the same, but the yes votes were significantly, and again, we passed probably by 80%. When we went to North Conway after the experience, and that cost the town $500,000 to replace that year. The cost went up by about $500,000. When we went to North Conway, I was always trying to tell them we need to make certain that you educate the public. We did videos. We had the chief speaking at the Rotary clubs, the Lion clubs, and there was a retired colonel who kept saying to Crystal and I that, you know, you don't have to worry about this. This will pass with no problems. And I'm like, that's what we heard in Twin Mountain. But then it did pass. It was 49 people showed up at what was a June meeting because of COVID, and all but 3 voted for it. So I think, and they had been messing around since 2009 with all kinds of crazy ideas. So having somebody that can kind of serve as the coach and push things along and deal with it on a full-time basis, I think makes a lot of sense. We had a good meeting with the building committee. We talked about a lot. Went through kind of the whole process and explained how we're different than like a construction manager. So we're not contractors. We're not architects. We're really like, I don't know, a coach or the quarterback. We're the ones that make things happen. And we deal with far more than just the construction component. We deal with the financing, we deal with the equipment, we deal with the furniture, We deal with all of the soft costs. I think I mentioned, we put down 75,000 brick in the middle of last winter. Thank God it wasn't as cold as this winter, but we went through, 31,000 gallons of propane in the process of doing that. But I had budgeted 30,000, so, it was part of the process. But you got all of those soft costs, interest carried during the construction period, and we take, part of what we do is take all of that into consideration. What we also do, I think, is we have excellent relations in the banking community. One of the sections of our company does any construction loans that are in the works. We underwrite it from a construction standpoint, and we inspect and disperse the funds. So we do that predominantly in New Hampshire, but we sneak over in Maine and Vermont as well. But we've been doing that for a long, long time. And accordingly, we have excellent relationships with the banks. And we were able to do much better than the municipal bond bank with a whole lot less hassle on all of those projects. And right now, checking your 20-year loan would be in the 2% range. But the nice things with the bank is there's no closing costs, there's no lawyers, there's just you sign a note and be done with it. So we're much more than just construction period. Our approach, and it's detailed in your package, but our approach would be to kind of revisit everything that's been done in the past. We know that Team Engineering has gone through the Park Street station, raised some issues. We would want to investigate that. We would want to kind of just revisit in a quick manner, but we have the luxury of some time, because construction wouldn't start until 2023, and you'd go to your meeting in March of 2023. So we have some time. I say that, you recognize that time flies really quickly, and as I get older, it goes faster and faster. But nevertheless, I think we would want to kind of just revisit, not necessarily start from scratch, kind of some of the history, where we are. We would then want to talk with you in the building committee and just see if you have what your concepts are. We had shown you, kind of two extremes. The Twin Mountain Franconia Fire Station is one extreme. The North Conway is another extreme. Your new police station is kind of in the middle. And so we would have, we'd want to get some idea before we wasted a lot of time and effort on, do you have an idea? When we went to North Conway, they had said, we had seen a station in Saco, Maine that we thought would fit. I'm like, all right, so we took a field trip and went to Saco, Maine, and we took all the good features of what they had in Saco, Maine, and then improved upon them, because they wanted granite and not precast for the lintels, because there was some evidence of some deterioration. I spent some time with the chief after the visit, and he said, whatever you do, don't do this, don't do this. We made some mistakes. We always try to avoid those, but typically there's always something that you might want to do a little differently. Although in North Conway, the only thing I would do differently is not have the structural engineer that we had. I think for the most part we're pretty pleased with that project. So we would want to get some idea of where you want this to end up, looking from just a broad concept. And then we meet with the chief and his officers, and we start to identify wants and needs. And I had brought this to the building committee, but it just, we start to identify all of the rooms that would go into the project, and then we start building from that, start assigning some square footages. And typically when we start through this process, we end up initially with a building about twice the size that we're probably gonna build, because it just, I've been doing this a long time, and that's just what happens. And then we kind of come up with a kind of a bubble chart to figure out, well, this has to be here, this has to be there. We know we want contaminated bunker gear not to enter into the office area or the bunk rooms, and so we start playing around, and then as we get into it and it starts to take shape, we realize that now we've got to refine and really start distinguishing between needs and wants. And when we're looking at needs, we're really looking at more than today, because we know this building's got a 50-year plus life. And so we're trying to look into the future. So the future in North Conway was, they do not have any career firefighters that spend the night. Their career firefighters are only there during the day. But nevertheless, we built 2 bunk rooms plus an officer's bunk room, because we know inevitably they will. And the thought was, you know, on bad weather they could man the station, but as it turns out, their weekend guys, because of the traffic, have been staying in those bunk rooms. So it's gotten used much sooner than we anticipated. In Franconia, we built in secretly the provisions to make what currently is an office, a bunk room, that would have direct access to a bathroom. But we had to kind of do it secretly, because the chief was so adamant that it would get killed if if the townspeople thought that they were going to have career guys there. In Twin Mountain, we had to take the bunk room name off the plans, and because they were adamant that they were going to, the next thing they were going to do is put in full-time people. I was like, yeah, no, that's not the plan. We showed a ladder truck, and they were adamant now they were going to get a ladder. So it's like, yeah, we've got to build something, we've got to build this in. They're going to have a ladder truck, there was no question about it. So anyway, once we do that, what we like to do next is, I put together the preliminary specifications, and then we would bring in an architect for, I indicated in that proposal for $15,000, but I'd be hoping that we get it for $5,000. And the architect takes all of this programming information and that bubble chart and all, and then comes up with a conceptual floor plan. And then we come up with a conceptual exterior. So between a conceptual floor plan, conceptual exterior, and my preliminary specifications, you can now go through the exercise that you went through and solicit construction managers, and we're able to get some pricing, so that you would then have the information that you would need to be able to go to your district meeting and get approval. And I have relationships with many of the larger construction managers that they'll price that for me without any cost, just because of the relationship that I have. And so based on that information, we then develop a budget that would look something like this. So they wonder why I go through yellow ink.
Makes me sleepy. Good cow.
So we create a budget, and many times there are sub-budget. So like the appliances, there was a sub-budget, the equipment, there was a sub-budget. And we attempt to put it all together so that it's a realistic budget and will be able to be met. And the big thing is to make certain that there's no unknowns. And once that budget is developed, that doesn't change. And then we use this is how I track where I am. So every month I know exactly, pretty much any given point in time, I know exactly where I am in the project. And that's important because typically we have found that they add some stuff as we go on. And I know whether or not the budget can absorb it or not. We report to the commissioners every month with where we are. Most important, I mean, the section in this whole thing is where it says expected. So keeping track of that, keeping track of where we are and what it's going to cost, that gives us, or gives me the knowledge of where I am in the total project. And it's just a lot of hard work and a lot of time spent, but you're able to continually track the budget and make decisions as you go along. The first phase, we would not recommend, hiring. It appears that we're going to be design build. We wouldn't bring them on and have them do work until you know you're going to have the money. We would have things ready so that we could start, if the meeting is in March, we would start construction ideally end of June, July 1st, so that we're not fighting the weather and we can get closed in and then complete the project through the winter, and come spring just pave the landscaping. That would be our overall goal. During that initial phase one, we would work on an hourly basis because we just don't know exactly what we're gonna get involved in. I bill and Crystal would bill it, and Shane are at $95 an hour. Crystal will tell you I'm terrible at keeping track of my time. If somebody calls me and talks, I don't put it down. I don't know. We would cap that at 47.5. I can't imagine we would get that high. Just don't. But I think you need. I hate hiring engineers because I hope none of you guys are engineers, but I can. They give you a price and then it's always a lot more. It's like whoa. So we gave you. We gave you a guaranteed maximum price. We would do the work for less than that, hopefully, but we would do all of that work in phase one if push came to shove for that 47.5. When we move into the next phase, now we have control, I guess, of the project. We know exactly what we're going to spend and how much time is going to be involved, and then we would go to a fixed fee. In this particular case, it would be 3% of the project cost. We find that works effective. We can build that right into our budget. We don't charge for mileage. We don't charge for travel time. Like I said, either before or after the approval. The process works. We would want to start immediately. One of the things that I've learned over the years is not to overcommit or try to do more than I could possibly do effectively. I wear many hats, and as it is, but when it comes to work, we've been very cautious about that. So, this would be the project. I would not get involved in another project because I just don't have the ability to, I work long days, usually 7 days a week. I do it because I enjoy it, but if I tried to take on another project, I wouldn't. And I have no commitments right now. We were talking to the town of Jackson. They had hired Sam and Delia to kind of get through that concept, but what they didn't do is hire us. So accordingly, the architect develops something that they think is what they need or what they want to design, as opposed to when we're involved, they're given very specific constraints so that we're not wasting time coming up with something that's going to be out of the realm of reasonableness from a budget standpoint. We did that. We even did that in North Conway with them. And when we do the conceptual and the schematic, they're going to be under constraints so that, number one, they spend less time, and number two, they come back with something that ideally will be within the budget. Sam and Delia went out to an estimating company, which I don't put a lot of faith in August during kind of the peak, and they came back at what, 5.7, 5.
I think so.
Something, I don't know, $700 a square foot, and that was just for the building, none of the soft cost. And it's a building like Twin Mountain. It's not a non-Conway building. As a result, they're not going forward on the warrant. So that's off in the future. Whether or not they'll come back to me, I don't know. To try to get them focused. But that was the only other thing that I had kind of going on, other than my fire chiefs and on the Board of Fire Control and on the Fire Academy Commission, head up the Family Search and Rescue Team. But those are all just kind of side things, and I'm kind of working my way out of some of what I do. So anyway, that's our proposal. I did bring an agreement. I think the one that was sent around had a typo on it, but we do have clean ones. Happy to answer any questions. One of the things, though, that I did want to bring up, and I know it was kind of mentioned at the building committee, was that you're kind of hoping to do this for $4 million. That's not in the realm of possibilities. And so if that $4 million is important to you, don't hire me, because you'll be wasting your money, and I don't know what to tell you, but you're not going to be able to build a fire station for $4 million in today's environment. I mean, we built Franconia for $1.8 million. It's a combination fire and police station. But that was 6 years ago. Times are so much different now than they were back then. You're looking at the $400 square foot range for construction costs. So, and then you have your soft costs on top of that. So, and I'm not 100% convinced that $400 will do it. It depends on a lot of circumstances, but clearly it's not going to be any less than that. So I tell you that because I don't want to waste your time or my time thinking that $4 million is in the appropriate range. This is this by its nature, it's a fire station. It's an institutional building. It's fully sprinklered. The electrical is different. All the wiring either has to be in conduit or what's called MC cable. It's just different. It's not a garage like a logger would build, or even your Park Street station, and would not meet the current code and standards, so. Hope I didn't talk myself out of the job. But, I mean, it's just, I mean, that's just the fact.
I think you talked last time about some of the ways you could save money.
Yes.
What do you think a fair amount, a percentage? Say we were gonna build a $6 million station. What do you think the percentage would be on the savings you could save us?
Because I'm involved?
Yep.
$500,000, if not more. Yeah, because you're not gonna make mistakes, you're not gonna waste time. We're gonna keep things focused. When it comes to financing, I think I can help save you money. It's hard to put, an exact dollar
I
on it.
understand that, I just
But-
curious.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the Jackson number would be a good example of, I can deliver that station that they have, which is an 8,000 square foot station with some significant site work. I wouldn't do it where they're doing it. They've got $1 million to move material, which just doesn't make sense to me at all. So, I mean, I can get that down substantially. They were hoping to spend, I don't know, $3.5 to $4 million. I can't get it that low in this environment. But we clearly save money, from the beginning all the way through because of our expertise and experience. I mean, I've built over $500 million worth of stuff in my career. I've been doing this since a long time. And I've made a lot of mistakes, and I think I've learned from those mistakes. In our relationships with contract, I was looking at some of the fees. I would expect lower fees if they know we're involved, because we make their job a lot easier.
What was the reaction when you said to the building committee that you're not gonna be able to build for under $4 million?
I don't think that came up.
At that time, I was.
I've asked, because I've heard lower numbers from some members of that committee.
Yeah, 3.5, 4 million, but.
Well, I've heard lower than 3.
Well, it's not gonna happen.
So, and I was involved in the Tilton, in the town of Tilton, we just built a police station.
Yes, yeah.
I was on the building committee for that.
Oh, okay.
And, the contractor, construction, or whatever you want to call it, Milestone, the guy from Milestone told me that if we had started that later, it would be double the price because of labor and costs. Now, the costs have come down, but the labor is not changing.
Right. The tradesmen.
Yeah, if they were getting $25 an hour now, they're getting $40 to $50 an hour now. But at least that sheet of plywood now isn't $100, it's $50, but
Yep.
still.
Yeah,
Before
some of that-
COVID, it was still in the $30 range, so it's still gone up, but.
Some of those luckily or thankfully are coming back down, but we still get daily emails from different supply houses of other things that are still on the rise or extending their lead times further and further.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing, is the supply chain
The big thing is lack of skilled tradesmen, and it's just that, everything has increased substantially. The North Conway project was 6.8. To do it today would be over $10 million.
But that's a 3-story building too.
Yeah.
So when I look at because there's North Conway's on this page and Carroll's on this.
Okay.
So it says 7,000 square foot. So you built 20,000 square feet of building for $4.45 million.
Yes.
And that was in.
We finished that in 2020.
But today.
But that would be significantly more.
But if let's just say, because I think our ideal is 12, 14. Our building estimation sizes are what, 14,000 square feet?
14, 15 that's where it fell when we did the
So
space
it's
assessment needs last time.
a little smaller of a building, but it's even if you just go through 25 per square foot, but now you're saying it's 400 per square foot, so it's gone up substantially.
So the other thing, it sounds like, to me, you could almost save enough, hiring you could save enough to almost pay what it cost you.
Oh, we'll save you more. I mean, yeah, I mean, we're relatively inexpensive because we're looking at 3% of the total, and you've got us watching, every waking moment of trying to save money. I think I spoke before, and I think it's in the proposal. I'm a Yankee. Come from a family of Yankees, and I hate spending $1 if I don't have to. And it drives my wife crazy.
I know, that's me.
But, I mean, it's like, yeah. So I own another house, 3 houses from my house for reasons I don't fully understand, but we're redoing it. And we have a little kitchenette, and the cabinets are coming from Portsmouth. And it's $350 to have them delivered up to Sugar Hill. And I'm weighing back and forth. Oh, I hate to spend that $350. But finally I convinced myself, it's like, yeah, your time's worth far more than that. You'd have to rent a truck. You're gonna have to get somebody to help you. It's like, yeah, pay the $350 and shut up. So it's, but that's, I hate wasting money. And I'm always looking to make certain that, we're getting the best value for $1. But on the other hand, I'm not afraid to spend money that's going to make the building more durable or energy efficient, because your operating costs go on forever. So spending a little bit of money to get a better epoxy floor is going to pay off down the road. But you got to do, you got to look at it and do an analysis as you go. Yes.
Any comments from you?
Oh, I got-
You've been unusually quiet.
I have concerns with cost, because it wasn't brought up at the building committee, so the $4 million.
His cost or the cost of building?
No, the overall cost, because we've already gone to the public with higher than that, and they've laughed.
It's the reality what it is.
It's the reality of it, but there's already going to be significant tax-based burdens this year and potentially next year from other districts, agencies, municipalities, and all that. So that's all coming from the same wallet. So that's a significant concern right off the bat. I know that the committee last year was looking at reusing as much of that station as possible, which is, yes, a glorified garage, but yes, it does have to come up to current code. Some seismic stabilization, things like that. We understand all that. It needs new concrete floor and all that. But utilizing that as much as possible, and in reality, I can tell you what the station plan was. Add 3 more garages onto that, add dorm space, add admin space, and be done with it. That's pretty much what the plan was, because that would empty Center Street and would still house the footprint of all the apparatus, give the dorm space, and give the admin space. If you can't do all that for $4 million and bring that station up, the town's never going to go for it.
So the question then becomes, do we wait until we're sued and we're forced to do something?
Or the other thing is you put 2 garages on next to it and you put some Page Street trailers on for dorm admin space, is what townspeople are going to say. I hate to say it. It's not the right answer, but it is an answer that's going to come from some of them. You've already gone to them for $4 million and they said no.
I think the longer you wait, the more expensive
I
it's going
agree.
to get. If you wait, I understand there's other burdens that are going to be placed on the taxpayer, so I get it, but I have to think of the fire district, because that's where I'm a commissioner, and I have to do what's best for, making it safe for the public. That building over here is
We need to be out of that station 10 years ago.
well,
At least.
What's Deputy Robinson always said, we've been trying to build a station for 40 years, for 40 years, we probably could have built a new one for $400,000, but now guess what?
Yep.
Now it's a $4 million, you know? And if we wait another 40 years, it's gonna be $40 million. And, you know, and it's gonna be the same garage. I get the burden that we're gonna be facing, and there's some tough choices that have to be made here. And, you know, I'm on the fence, you know, okay, you just said the concrete floor has to be replaced. Well, you know, okay, if you're replacing the concrete floor,
Not saying replace, skim over it.
well, I don't think you could.
Well, that's fine, I understand that's not gonna happen, but we've had from this district a lot of mixed messages going to the public. We've had people in this department saying that that station is the wrong place to have a station. So we're already getting mixed messages from our department and that needs to end. It has to be uniformity, and if you want to get people on board with this. Because any mixed messages is going to derail us, absolutely. And we've heard many times from someone in the department that that's the wrong place. And that needs to end.
I've heard it from the public too.
Yeah,
You know, but that's the choice we have right now,
exactly.
you know, and, you know, I know where other people want a station, and.
I wanted one on that property too, but they'd rather have a ice rink there.
Well, actually, so, I'll bring it up, since you've opened the bag.
And across the street's a good spot too. until
No,
we get
actually,
back to the state.
I've been told by several people in town that they will not support something on Park Street unless something's built over on, adjacent to the PD.
We tried that.
Well, I think that's, you know, so, I don't know if you know where I'm talking.
Oh, yeah, no, I know the.
So there's some people that want a substation there. There was discussion at one point, before we knew that we could build the Park Street, that, okay, we can make that the main station and make Park Street upgraded to a substation of some sort. You know, and then you start back and forth, not having the equipment, adding minutes, and I get all that. And this is the problem. We have numerous opinions that you're going to hear from,
Right.
if we hire you, that you're going to get inundated with. Are you ready for that? Because let me tell you, you're going to find every Tom, Dick, and Harry is going to have their opinion, and they're going to let it be known to you, and they're going to just not support you, our goals. You know, I think.
Or support the district's goal. He just works for us and tries to put
Right,
the
but
best part
he's
again in front of us.
But, you know, I think that the members of the district are going to expect an update of some sort at district meeting in March. And you're going to find out that temperature of that room is going to get colder than it was this weekend, especially up your way. You know where we're trying to go with this, John, and I can't. As soon as you say we're building one station, you're going to immediately lose half your audience.
Potentially. Yep.
You know, well, depends who shows up. You know, last year we had, 30 people at a district meeting.
Wow.
Um,
You'll have more for this.
Well, yeah, you'll have more for this, but it's just, it is what it is. There was a life safety building at one time that lost by what, one vote?
Oh,
Like 10 years ago? Remember they wanted to build over by Walmart, Walgreens.
Business Park Drive area, yeah.
Oh, it was a
I was
park.
across the street from there, yeah.
It was by J. Jill.
The old state property.
And the state property there, they wanted to build, it was to be a life safety, and it lost by one vote. I think it was 1 or 2 votes. I mean, it was, you know, and the town of Tilton has, if you ever need plans for a police station, come see the town hall here, because we have like 10 sets of plans.
14 years, I think, or 15 years.
Yeah, so, you know, but we have a nice building now. And that committee, we built it for 50 year. I heard you say it 50 year. You know, everyone's like 20 years. No, we're building for 50 with the idea that it's going to be 50. And, you know, this building's going to be, how long have we been in this building? How many hundreds of years?
152 years.
152 years. So there's 3 times the life that, you know, and, you know, it can't be, oh, they don't build them like they used to. They have to build it like they used to because that, but it's, you know, it's going to be expensive, and it kills me because the more we wait, the more it's going to be, you know. And
one of the biggest things though is where there's two towns
Yeah.
and Tilton pays more than Northfield. Their tax rate for the fire department is more. So they feel as though they should have it in their town, which to me, they shouldn't look at it that way. However, about 15 years ago, maybe a little longer than that, I've been a commissioner for, I don't know, about 15, 16 years, the towns got so upset that they were going to split up at one time.
Really?
We got lawyers to start dividing up the trucks, the land, and everything. We were ready, and I think that was the biggest turnout at the district meeting ever, because they wanted to split, and it got turned down anyhow because of the
Well, I've
cost.
heard rumors of that coming up again anyway, so I don't know.
That's been voted on 2 or 3 times since I've been here,
Yeah.
and it gets killed every single time.
It's tough for them not to view themselves as a member, or a resident of Tilton Northfield instead of a resident of the district.
Sure.
That's just the
You're
reality.
right, it shouldn't be, I'm in Tilton, or it should be a district.
Right.
We're a district.
Yeah, I mean, the district is 8,000, 9,000 people altogether.
It's almost 9,500 right now.
Yeah, 9,500, so it's weird that the other side of the river has more people, but this side of the river, because they have more calls,
Commercial.
they have the commercial base.
It's
And,
2 different demographics, and that's
Oh,
the
yeah.
biggest problem to it.
yeah, it's night and day, the demographics. And I'm just using an example, but Democrat, Republican type of night and day.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying one is the
No, no.
other.
One is one, yeah.
It's just, that's the only example I can think of. And I think, but part of me thinks that if we have an outside person that is explaining things, it might be well received. It's not, no offense to you, it's not you saying, oh, it's gonna be $4 million. It's not you saying it's gonna be $5 million. This is a person who does this for a living, is gonna present hopefully a little something at district meeting, if the moderator allows it, which I think he will. And this is kind of like, this is preparing. And when we did the police station, we kind of prepared for that. Like, we warmed them up, buttoned them up a little bit for it and said, get ready.
Now, you don't think some type of a number? I mean, you can go out there and say, hey, you can talk all you want. If you don't have a number, they're gonna say, what's the number?
I think,
Is it 4 million or is it 10 million?
I don't think you can say that at this point, and I don't,
We gotta have an idea, somewhat of an
You
idea.
have to have
I
a
would think.
conceptual idea ballpark.
can you get that conceptual ballpark in 2 months? A month?
She just said
It's March
March
14th.
14th.
Yeah.
It's district
That
meeting.
doesn't give us a lot of time. but-
Because he doesn't have a scope from what the building committee wants or that's why I kind of throw out there kind of what they're looking at. Adding a few more bays, apparatus, your admin, your dorm space, and of course, all the supplementary resources you need of the different rooms, the cleaning, the decon, the storage, things like that, the base.
And we're not trying to build.
In single story, the whole thing is going to be single story, doesn't need a hose tower, doesn't need stairs, stay away from all those additional flaring costs.
Because they're gonna want a number. I mean,
Right.
you can go there and talk to them till you blue in the
Right.
face. Without a number, then,
Well,
But that number's gonna
at this
change.
district meeting, it doesn't really need to be a number, it just needs to be an explanation of the process that we're gonna go through to get to a number at next district meeting. And then we have this whole year, as we're going through the process, to educate the folks, the residents of the fire district, how the process is moving along and why it's moving in this direction or this direction, and the facts or the reasons or the numbers behind it. And so by the time we get to the next district meeting, it's well known what the number's gonna be and the reasoning for that number. And then it's up to the voters at that point to decide whether that's a worthy project or not.
I think you have a pulse check along the way and having a public hearing along the way, and at least we can know, are we on the right highway?
We'd want to have several, we would.
Well, no, but
Yeah.
that initial one's gonna tell you a lot, and it's gonna see,
You're going to have a question that will pop up at this meeting, guaranteed.
Yeah.
What are you looking at for dollars?
Yeah.
And that alone will turn the tide.
Yep.
If you're going in for 6.57 million after the Mansfield Road 6.5, and you saw how that went,
Which Mansfield Road?
what's the one over
Manville.
Manville. Manville Road, I'm sorry,
Where the hell's
Manville.
Mansfield?
Yeah, no,
Manville
no,
Road.
Well, no, I didn't know if that was like a project that Northfield was working on.
Now, but
So that was 2 stations too.
it was 1 million for Park Street, but the rest was over at Manville to add in all kinds of utility work and things like that to use the property. And that's part of the problem is,
Bring
that-
the water in. That was the,
yes.
that was the water
The killer on that.
killer on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was
Because we had to bring the water in for what, the Hampton Inn?
from the Hampton
Yes.
Inn down Main Street,
Route
Route 3, and then into Manville Road.
And go under the
Because
railroad
sewer was
tracks.
already there, gas was already there, electrical was already there.
Mhm.
The only utility we had to bring in was water, and that was
Right.
approaching $600 and something thousand because of the fees
Right.
associated with the water district for,
Yeah, that's the other thing you'll find in this district is the way that the water fees work.
I know a lot about the water district, unfortunately, so
So,
that's,
you know, like when we built that station, if we went on the wrong side of the hydrant, it was a difference of $500,000, $600,000 versus like 20.
I also knew, because we were doing a subdivision on, up off of Clark Road, and little things like trying to get them to give us a test of what what water was where, that was like asking for the moon at times, like, oh my God. That's when it was privately owned, but it doesn't sound like it's.
Hasn't
changed.
improved. But we had considered approaching the town of Tilton and looking at public safety for where the police station was, and we were told by one of the selectmen at the time to not even show up at the meeting. Because the chief and I were both going to go, and I got a very nasty phone call by a selectman member at the time who said, don't come to our meeting, don't even mention that, because the police station will never fly if you do.
Right, but
That was at the time.
right, and the police station has flown and been built, and so now it's, we gotta try to get this done.
That's an option for down the road. I mean, that's part of the station committee meeting last year, said you look at something for the now to get out of that, and then you look at 10, 15, 20 years down the road with a plan to expand.
Well, I think there was a member of the public, a well-respected member of the public, that made mention of you need to have something else going on to get support. If you listen to the audio, Kevin made some comments.
I'll have to go back and,
Yeah, I'll find it. If I find it, I'll email it to you, but it won't be the next couple of days. So I guess we're at a conundrum here of, we have REI sitting before us
with a proposal.
with a proposal. Kind of, when I looked at the proposal part of it, so this is and I'm just gonna throw this 15,000 for an architect is not to exceed cost.
Yeah, I would hope that it would be less.
But you said 5, it says 15, it should hopefully 5, but I understand, I don't know.
That's in addition to
And
the
we have,
0.75.
there's been a question of some of the other plans that we've had drawn up. Do we own those? Do we have copies of those? Does that save us any money? I have no idea. And then there was another,
47.5 up to.
yeah, is that up to 47.5? And then, so, because I'm not a mathematician by any means, but if, this is not a serious number, if the building was $1 million, your fee would be 30.
Our fee for phase 2 would be 3% of that.
Yeah, so 3% is 30,000, if I'm doing my math right, okay. Because 10% would be 300.
Yeah.
So every $1 million you make is 30. Okay, I gotta wrap my head around that. Because we have money in the budget.
We have up to $100,000 for
Right,
design.
well, I don't
and-
want to build,
Right.
but I think we have to, but what are we gonna be able to show the taxpayers in a year? Okay, we spent, let's just say we max this out, we spent 47.5, what do we have to show for it?
Right.
We spent thousands on architectural plans. and plot plans and things like that, and all we have are paperweights and big tubes of, plans rolled up in chief's office somewhere probably, gathering spider webs. Because in that building, I'm sure there are spider webs.
Most of them get blown away.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I think this is the right step of way to go.
yeah, I think it is too. I mean, we got the committee has, she said, I can't say that, I hate that word, unanimous here.
Just did.
Yeah,
Good job, too.
everyone said, okay.
Definitely felt that there was a value in
Right.
what he brings to the table.
No, and there is value to what he brings to the table. I mean, it's not, I think it, I don't know what the right word is. It brings a more,
Experience.
yeah, it brings more experience, but it shows that we're, okay, we're serious about this. We're going out, we're spending money on this. This is the goal. It's not just the committee trying to,
No, we want it done the right way.
Yeah,
And we've
we're doing it.
failed a few times already, so let's find the right way of doing it.
yeah.
I can tell you that
We've made mistakes in the past, let's not repeat them. Let's learn from them.
yes.
He's made
agreed.
mistakes too.
Yeah,
We've
Well,
learned from
if-
it.
That's part of learning.
If you're not making mistakes, you're not really learning either.
No, trust me. I get it, but it's a
Mhm.
it's a burden to bear. Well, what do you say?
Well, I think it's a great idea to get started. I mean, I know, like John said, there's gonna be some people, but what do you think, how much? Give me a figure.
They will ask.
It's really could be who shows up. It really is.
Oh, you know who's gonna show
Oh, I
up.
know who's going to show up, and but I also hopefully we can get some other people to show up and throw their support towards it.
You have
There's
to be,
always gonna be the folks there that are gonna say no, no matter what. If it was $8, they'd be saying no.
Someone donated it, they'd see.
if you can't answer a question when they throw that to you, you're gonna look very unprepared and you're gonna lose before you even start the race.
Right, but that's why he's going to help
Within
answer
a
those
month, he's
questions.
going to? So
I
as
don't know.
you as
I
a
don't
chair,
know.
you're gonna
See,
sign
what he
this
says, he
agreement and
doesn't have any
everything
other
and
things
give
on
time?
this. He doesn't have any other things on this table, on his plate.
I'm not gonna have a number.
Right, exactly.
No, but
And
I
I
think
understand
if
that.
I could certainly explain the process. And the
Well, if
timeline.
you use Carroll, put that one as an example, the 13,000 square foot, that's a close comparison.
Economic base, yes.
Well, economic base, but I'm just talking about size of building. And, okay, in 2020, so that means you broke ground in 2019? So, that's what it cost just a few years ago, thanks to old COVID, a pandemic, and now, no one wants to work, so now there's a shortage of tradesmen, so now they can charge willy-nilly, and they're getting it, Yeah, the supply, that's a whole different issue, but it's really the cost out, the true cost is the labor, because that's gonna be the highest, and that's not going down anytime soon.
Right.
Well, I think the other item is interest rates are gonna go up.
Yeah.
They're not gonna get lower than 2%.
No.
Right.
There's no question, a year from now, what are they gonna be? I don't know. I don't think they'll be 2%.
Well, they're gonna be 6 months from now, we don't
Yeah.
know.
But,
I haven't checked on them lately, I looked at last week or a couple weeks, the stock market was doing this, down 800 points, up 800 points.
So the New Hampshire Municipal Bank just floated the bonds in January, and it was 2.09%. Banks typically are a little lower than that, but not
Franklin Savings
significantly.
Bank, I know for the town of Tilden,
But-
used to,
True.
Franklin Savings.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Frankly, we have a good
there's all
line.
kinds of the financial options. The first part is just,
But, I was afraid when I looked to see what that was gonna be, because I thought that might be 3, so 2 wasn't bad.
No,
But, we're starting to see inflation, interest rates are probably, they've gotta go up. I've been
The
saying
Fed
that
has
for
said that
10
they're gonna
years,
start
so.
incrementally raising interest rates, so.
So, you're facing that. I would be happy to speak at the meeting, but I can't give, I mean,
Right.
I can explain to them, you know, what we're doing and how we're getting there. And
A good
trying to
progress
be
report.
Yeah, be as diligent as we can to be able to get the best price that's possible. You know, I can give some examples, but, you know, I can't. I mean, if I knew the price, you don't need to hire me.
No, I need you to hit that number that you give us. So you give me a number now and you say you'll hit it, I'm all in favor.
I mean, in reality, in reality, if, again, so, in reality, if we make if there's a motion to.
62.5.
62.5, that's the number I was looking for, I looked it up earlier. We're really authoring ourselves to spend 62.
Up to 62.5, correct.
Well, I'm going top number.
Well, that's why I say
Yeah.
up
Yeah, not to
to,
exceed.
not
Yeah,
to
not to
exceed.
exceed 62.5% of our 100,000.
62,500 of our 100,000,
Right.
correct.
And if there's any other costs that we have to incur, do you see any other costs in this 2022 that may come up?
So I think you know, if we're focused on Park Street, we do need to have somebody interpret those borings that were spent, but I don't think we're not talking a lot of money. So, you know, I've read them. I'm not a structural engineer but that type of material I'm familiar with. Can we build on it? Absolutely. The question, and can we build spread footings? Yeah, it's a matter of what size spread footings would we have to do. I told you in Franconia we ran into really some unsuitables, and we had to do what's known as geopiers, which added $100,000 to the project, and that essentially is a column of stone that went down to the good. We're right along the river. It goes all the way down to the good gravel, and then it just creates a column. And you know, that added $100,000. So I don't. The soils themselves, I don't think is a problem, but I do think we would probably want to spend a couple $1,000s to have a structural guy just interpret. Well, I don't think we need to do new borings. I think we just need to have somebody. Those were designed for a tower. That's different than, you know, than.
No, but
footprint of a
didn't we have
structure.
them do borings more in the area?
Well, test borings, yes, but it's
test
designed
borings.
for vertical support rather than linear support.
Yeah.
So that's really the only thing that I would see. And then, you know, we wouldn't start developing marketing materials. And I use marketing, and I know that offends people, but the education process, you know,
Education
that would
media.
be in 2023. But again, when, you know, probably so we would use the press as much as we could to get the word out. We probably would make a pamphlet that we would make ourselves. You know, so for $1,000 you would have that. I don't, you know, if you did a mailing, there'd be some postage costs, but you know, maybe you could put it in with your bills or something. We would work around. I don't see any huge, you
Well, I
know,
know
dollars.
Northfield does a nice
5,000.
job with
Who?
the town Northfield does a nice job with an e-newsletter.
Okay, yeah.
Weekly, I think, almost weekly, every other week, and then I know Tilton is working on something similar, so.
Yeah, you just sign up for it and it comes.
Yeah, I get it for Northfield, so, and I think you'll find a lot of costs.
And I think you go on the website, if you don't get it, you
Yeah.
can go to the website and read
Yeah.
it anyways.
Yeah, it's just a link to the website stuff.
So we need to make a decision.
You want us to leave, that's fine. I mean, I understand, I just,
I'll make a motion to authorize the chair to go into agreement with REI for up to, like, not to exceed $7,500. I've looked this over multiple times to give us a design process for the 2023 budget season.
Motion. Second.
Hmm?
Is there a second? Can I second it? Because you said me, so I don't know if I can second it. Or-
I made the motion, so anyone can second it.
Anyone.
All right, I'll second it. I'll
You
second
can make a motion as a chair if you want.
Well, I know that, but you specifically in your motion named the chair.
To sign,
To sign.
to be the signature authority.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Right.
Sorry, I just heard chair.
To sign.
Selective hearing, John.
Let you pull your pen out.
My paper made ink joke.
So you did a motion and a second, so now you get to debate it.
Any other let's discuss, well, I mean, I think we debated it.
I don't know, I see reservation over there.
Yeah, well, I know, I feel.
What is it?
I just, what's gonna happen is, I think, is if this, I mean, how many more years, look at the money we've spent so far.
No?
I mean, we've spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. We haven't got nowhere.
Mhm.
I'm not picking on him. I think that's great. We have somebody like him do that. I just don't want to spend the money and have to, 3 years, go through the same thing. That's the problem.
Agree. And that taxpayers have to understand that if they choose to shoot it down, they're throwing away more money.
And just guaranteeing a higher cost in the end if they ever do decide to do that.
I understand what you're saying, Paul, with the spending more money in plans, but every dollar that we spent on every plan has been for a different plan. We haven't had the same plan. At least I think, okay, if it doesn't go this year, at least we have kind of the same plans. We can always update the cost, but it's gonna be in this, you know, if we don't go in 2023 for a vote, we go 2024, at least I don't think something's gonna happen to that spot. It's not like a McDonald's is gonna go in or something like that, and all of a sudden, we don't have that land. We have that land. At least, and we have plans for that land. I mean, we had plans for, I believe, for a life safety building. Didn't pass, okay. Now, we had plans for the Tilton School property. Didn't pass, but that was a different building. We had some plans for Mansville Road. I was thinking Mansfield Road. Mansville Road. Again, different proposal, didn't pass, different plans. At least, I think we've narrowed the spot that we want a station. And so, okay, strike one, okay, I don't want to use sports, but strike one, we didn't, but we're going to go right back up and swing again, but it's going to be in the same spot. The difference is, I think that if people see that, but if people, just what you said, we keep spending money on plans, okay, maybe they'll, oh, I'm tired of it, I want to show something for the money that I'm investing, and maybe they'll approve it. And I understand all the other variables that are going on in our taxes right now. You know, I mean, it's...
I think going with an engineer is something outside the norm. We set aside $100,000 for station design and get the process up to building. So we did set the money aside in that non-lapsing last year, and kind of utilized for this. And what we're doing is, instead of trying to do it in-house, we're going to an industry specialist, essentially, in simple terms, that does this stuff. So we're going to the right.
I understand. You're right. I agree with.
I think so. That's something you can sell.
Yeah. All I'm saying is, if we're going to spend this 67, whatever it is, or whatever the amount is, if it don't happen in 2023, then we're going to have to go through it again. So do we hire him again to come in and do it again, or?
Well, I don't think it's... I don't want to...
So if you don't move site, those
Right.
plans that we developed through an architect, you'll own.
We'll have them.
Right, and that's what I was trying to say, is like, okay, if we have to go back in 2024, same site, same plan, the plan, I don't think we're gonna change it and all of a sudden say, oh, you know, unless they have spaceships, we had to have a retractable roof or something, but I don't think we're gonna change the plan so much. The costs are gonna change and they can update the cost, that's easy to do. You know, that's just a press of a button. You know, if you build in well, I don't know, inflation's about 7% every month lately, so I don't know.
The plans are a conceptual exterior
Right.
and schematic floor plan. They're not plans that, but then you give it, when you hire a design, build, construction manager, the district will own those plans, so they just build from that. So the cost to get to construction drawings is substantially less than if you were starting from scratch. And you'll be working towards what everybody thinks you're working towards. Why don't we leave and you guys can hash it out?
Sure. That sounds good.
And I come back to the same thing. If it's not gonna pass, then, we're just you're wasting time and money. But one of the things that we do is we do work to try to make it pass. I mean, we're not here just as we don't build, we don't design, we manage the process. The process for us to be a success is not to make money, to get paid. It's to get the project approved so we can build it. I was up in the town of Northumberland, which is the town of Groveton, and was set up there. They paid me roughly $30,000 to do what I want to do for you, and that was going to be a police station and an ambulance station. The fire department is a district as well, so they're not part of the town. And we moved along, and everything was going fine until town meeting, when a selectman who happened to just get beat got up and spoke for 20 minutes about what a terrible project and what a terrible idea was, and then had it rigged in so that somebody stood up and wanted to stop all further debate.
Yep.
And brought it to
Yep.
a vote, and it went down in flames. The police chief didn't even get a chance. I was like, why? That had no. If that was going to be where we were headed, it had no chance. So the only way to move things forward is, you've got to be united. You got to have your building committee united. The commissioners need to be united. You need to have the firefighters. Everybody has to be working towards that same goal. There was friction between the fire district and the town ambulance, because the ambulance was in the fire station, so they weren't really in favor of it, other than they were hoping to get the ambulance out because they could have used the space. But again, that was kind of an exercise in futility. We made money, but I was pretty discouraged of saying I took money from the town for something that had no chance. So again, I don't want to talk myself out of the project, because I think the project is a good project. I think you have better than a 50-50 chance of getting this thing approved if we can get everybody headed in the right direction. But if it's just an exercise that you think has poor chance of moving forward, then I assume you're going to have to put it off. It's not going to get cheaper. Interest rates are going to go up. I don't know what else I can say, but I think that's what you guys have to debate. You don't need us unless there's some reason you want us here, but you might be able to talk more freely without us here. Anyway, if you do want to go forward, you've got you get me 100%. And the politics, I understand. I've been through all of that. That's part of what I do, and what I become somewhat of the lightning rod of trying to take this in. And the way that you offset that is by education. You've got to educate the voters, and you've got to make certain the voters that that were willing to support you need to show up and vote. Because the people that are gonna vote no, number one, you're not gonna change their mind, and number two, they're gonna show up and vote, so, for whatever it's worth. All right, you guys take care.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Safe trip up the Sugar Hill.
So today, you know, it's weird when it gets to 24 and you think it's warm out, because the sun was out and there was no wind, but it was like, wow.
Does the chief have, does chief have the agreement if it's a positive vote? Is that it?
Here it is.
Oh, this, yeah.
No, that's it.
Okay.
It's not that long.
Oh, there's 5 copies. Holy cow.
One for everybody.
Yeah, well, I didn't see that at first. It was just like $47,000 worth of paper.
Good to see you again.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming and visiting us down here until.
Well, I told you, I built those houses on Zion Hill, and two of my sons lived several years anywhere, like in Northfield. My grandkids started in the Northfield school, so I am familiar. And then I did work on a subdivision on the land of the Plesners across our Winter Street. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. What do you think you're doing? All right. So we'll carry on our discussion.
Kind of, because you got a motion and a second, and
Yeah.
you're up to the discussion phase, so you gotta finish it one way or the other.
I can't recall us having someone like this in the past. I may be wrong in that, but it wasn't a commissioner on other plans.
This is the first time, if you vote to approve this, that you will have somebody that's working on this project pretty much full-time, whereas before, it was either myself working on projects divided amongst all my other duties as a fire chief, where I certainly can't get out to the public and, you know, and educate the public like somebody who's dedicated to being able to do that, whereas I'm doing 28,000 things. This is going to be, you know, his main focus if you do this, and I think whatever proposal is put forward would stand a much better chance of success with having somebody that's dedicated to the process. It doesn't mean that that we're not going to be involved in the process. Myself and the building committee and the commissioners are certainly going to be involved in the process and helping guide him in some of the decisions that they will be making going forward. But, you know, all the other stuff that he brings to the table, we don't have that. I think he'd be a great asset for the fire district.
I don't want to sound mean or anything like that, Dana. I'm a firm believer in, you know, he does know his stuff, there's no doubt about it. He is, how can I say, I don't want to be mean about a salesman, trying to sell himself, because that's his business. And I don't blame him for that. I just wonder if maybe what we should do is check with some of these other places and say, you know, were you happy with him? I mean, just get some references.
So
I mean,
this-
he's telling you what he's telling you. I don't know. Was this town happy? Was this town happy? Was it worth it to hire him to do that? That's my feeling. You don't. I mean, I could come in here and talk to you about carpet or something, and you're going to take my word for it. It would be better if you did your research and called a couple of people and see what kind of work we do. I mean, that's all I'm saying. And he sounds like he knows his business, and he's very knowledgeable. There's no doubt about it.
He has letters of reference in his proposal that if you wanted to contact those folks, I'm sure they have no problem.
I actually, no.
I know some of them.
Well, I don't know.
Harry Plum.
I know in the town of Carroll, I keep referencing it because that's the one I'm probably the most familiar with. and I don't know if you knew where their police station was before. And I don't mean this in any disrespect, but it was a building that was worse than our current fire station. It was basically a old gas station, and there were people that wanted them to stay in there forever. And I, including a friend of mine, but this guy sold, during one of the proposals, he was a selectman up there. He's not a selectman up there anymore, but, I actually called him, after we talked to this guy. He was actually in favor of the project after this guy got involved. Because they had, different things going back and forth. And I've actually gone up and driven around that. It's a beautiful facility. And I just know, based on what the Carroll Police Department was in, it's like, I don't know if you ever drove up Route 3 and they had a striped moose on the side of the road, a cutout moose. That's where the police station was. It was just like they had the old service bay was the sally port, and it was just you wouldn't know it was a police station driving by it. So.
But the fire station wasn't much better.
No, the fire station wasn't much better. So, actually, this building kind of looks like the old fire station in some degree, but it's different. I feel we need to get something, and what we've done so far hasn't worked, for lack of a better word, hasn't worked. Yes, I understand, in the back of my mind, I understand he's a salesman, and he's trying to pitch his next job. But I like them.
So I will say this is the third time I've heard him. And yes, he is a salesman, but I've also watched people who aren't easily persuaded kind of side along that they think this was the right way to go. So some of those people, you would never expected that. I mean, so I watched that. I think that that's a valid thing of looking for references. I think, and we could even modify the motion upon receipt of whatever, or we could even, I mean, right now the 4th, I think is a scheduled meeting, if do whatever we gotta do. I see the value of that as well, what you're saying. It's maybe a step before pen to paper.
Well, here's my question.
I mean, I like the way he said he could save enough money to almost pay for him.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good thing.
And that's what we've heard each time, is that
Yeah.
he pretty much can save, in savings, cover his costs. usually.
Covers costs.
Yeah. So you're not paying an additional cost
Yeah.
above what you're looking for the product. He has expressed that each time, and I think he's pretty confident that he could do that.
The fact that knowing who's on this committee, outside of you, the other members, and their stand on a lot of things, that they're unanimously.
The ones present. So the ones present that night was Kevin Waldron, Kevin Kate, Derek was present, Tim Sadler, is it Sadler? Sadler, and myself. That was who was present that night,
Right.
and all were in favor.
And all were in favor.
Yes. Yeah, that's
Well,
what,
that's what I'm saying. It's
that's
like
what I'm kind of getting at with
the
this.
weight,
It's-
the weight of that group. I know.
Yes,
Well, you're on the committee, so I know 4 of the committees where they kind of go on things, and so the fact that
so if
4 of
he's a
those people I
salesman, he's able
know.
to sell himself well to
that
people
respect.
that aren't easily sold.
Yeah, and that they're telling. Have they read this cost involved in this? Do they know the cost?
We saw his other big packet, and he kind of brought this presentation, a modified version that we had. The cost to us, I mean, he talked to us about an hourly cost, so they knew there would be an hourly cost up to presenting to the voters, and then it was about a 3% they knew about a 3% when you get into the building phase. So they were aware of that ahead of time.
So they know that if we pass this, we're basically spending
They didn't,
up to.
we didn't know at the time up to the 47.5.
Yeah.
We knew it was hourly. We didn't have
Yeah.
what that calculation is, but still, you're under half at least. You're not, well, plus the 5, plus up to 15 you could be.
Well, either way, you're gonna have to have architectures involved in
Right.
this, unless you're really good with pen and pencil and a ruler, I mean,
Now my good paper days are over.
so. And,
I mean, if you want, I'm
No,
not
I-
opposed to that too. I mean,
You know, if they're content with it, them people there that you mentioned, I guess I would have to go along with them. I mean, they heard it just as well as I did, and I heard it twice.
Yep, and Kevin Waldron heard it 3 times, because he was here the first time. He came out of this a little bit different than I would have expected. At the next meeting, there was a little contention at first, and it was a committee member had some contention, worked through that, and at the end, the committee member was in support, which was interesting to see. But yeah, the whole thing almost stopped it because of a committee member, and that ended. Listened through it and was in favor of it after, and then in support of it. That.
So I guess, you know, I guess you can call it vote if you want.
Well, something else for discussion is, do we think it will pass on Park Street? Rumor keeps coming up with that, like you said, it's like, if it's not gonna pass, it's a waste of his time too.
I really think,
well,
let's face it, Pack Street's, I mean, the ground, you got everything there. Why wouldn't it pass?
It's, yeah, it's not my
We
first
we own the
choice.
land,
Right.
the water's
Utilities are
there,
there.
everything's there.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go someplace else, yeah, and spend, what you're gonna probably spend over there, at least a couple $1 million to have all that other stuff done.
well,
And, you know, and I'm not saying eventually, you know, maybe 5, 6 years down the road, you can't build a
Go
substation.
further, please. You say
But-
5, 6, you're gonna say no.
well,
Okay, down the road further, you don't have to give a date, maybe down the road.
And that's what the committee kind of came out of with their
I
understanding.
think part of it is you're gonna have to, he's gonna get a picture, I think, at district meeting,
Mhm.
which I think it's not like you would go to.
He did say he would attend.
But I think you'll get the feedback, and I think it's early enough in the process that if we get the message that we can't present something unless there's 2 stations being built, not necessarily concurrently, but if there's not a plan
Mhm.
for the second station somewhere involved in this, at least we'll get that message early.
Yeah.
And before we spend too much money.
Yeah, because I'm fully in favor if down the road, 15 years or so from
Well,
now, a
I don't think you
substation-
can tell, I don't think you can throw that, I
I
don't,
wouldn't throw out a date, I'd say
Right.
down the road.
Right,
but as, what I'm saying, it's like, you know, if we don't have a plan of, okay, we're gonna get this station built, and as soon as that station's built, 5 years from whenever it's occupied, or 10 years whenever it's occupied, then there's a substation built. But I think we'll get that gauge at district meeting in March. And then he can go with that as well. Does anyone want to take a look at this?
The other thing that you, there's gonna be a bond vote at some point,
Yes.
which has to be a supermajority, a 2/3 vote. So it's not an easy vote to get.
Is it 2/3 for a bond?
It is,
Yes.
yes.
Absolutely.
Unless one of us wins the lottery.
And it won't be the daily numbers game either. One of them power-
See, this says budget not to exceed 65,000.
because he doesn't think he'll take the full 15. So
He
he's
doesn't
thinking he
think the
can shave it
architect-
from either side.
He doesn't think the architect will, and when I talked to him on the phone today, when he sent some of this material up, he says, I don't think I'm gonna come close to the 47.5 either, but he's trying to cover his
No,
bases.
but on page 2, Article 5, budget is 65,000, which is 2,500 higher than what we just talked about, so. Those two numbers before are 62.5.
Well, then he talked about an engineer getting to interpret the borings. Probably be a couple.
Where am I missing the first number here? What bullet?
So, okay, on page 1 of 6.
Yep.
1, 2, 3 lines up from the bottom.
Article 5,
Well,
budget.
right, but it says $15,000 estimate here.
Yep.
And then on page 2 of 6,
Mm-hmm.
under Article 3, it's twice mentioned under fees and expenses at
47.5.
47.5.
Right.
And if you go down to Article 5,
Okay.
budget not to exceed 65,000.
So 47.5 plus 15 was going to be 62.5.
Yeah, so this is $2,500 more than what?
So that is a discrepancy that really should be identified, the 2,500 before it's signed.
Do you want me to call him? Ask him so that you can write it down?
Probably not. That, I mean, that might be able to solve it.
Well, I just, yeah, I guess it's,
That's a, yeah, $2,500 difference of what?
Yeah. I can call him if you like.
we're just going through the contract.
Put it on speaker. Looks like it's going to go to his voicemail.
Your bridge is on the clock. Please leave a message. If it is a fire emergency, please contact my dispatch at 823-8123.
At the tone, please record your message. When you finish recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Alan, it's Mike Setar. We're sitting here at the table looking at the contract, and there's a question of a $2,500 discrepancy where you have $47,500 for your not-to-exceed price for yourself and $15,000 for an architect. But the total budget cost you have in there in Article 5 is at $65,000, and the commissioners were just wondering what that $2,500 would be. You call me back or send me an email. Great. Thank you. Is that clear enough?
Actually, you'll have to change the motion. Because you said for the, it's actually all of us going to enter the contract.
Well, you can vote to authorize one person to sign it.
Yeah, but there's 3 lines.
Your motion would, if
Yeah.
you authorize one person, that's all you need. If you don't make that authorization, yeah, you can have all 3 signed. You can and have voted in the past to authorize me to sign certain things. It's up to you guys how you want to do that.
I think maybe what we ought to do is move on right now, and maybe he'll call before we get done.
So, yeah, we have a motion, so
You can table the motion for now.
I'll table a motion until we hear back from Ellen. I can make a motion to that, table the motion.
I'll rescind my motion at this time.
That's a better way to do it.
Okay, I'll rescind my second.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on. So, since we're under old business, I'll just stay there for now. The fire station building committee?
They met with him, and they recommended that the recommendation go forward, that we go with him and brought it to the table, and we're gonna meet in a week or so, and we're hoping to have a plan of action from the commissioners at that point.
When's the next time that they meet? The ninth?
That would be the 9th.
Okay.
Yep. So, there's a couple days in there, and we're meeting again on the 4th, so.
And they're,
The 4th of.
For the budget,
For Friday,
public warrant,
Yeah,
public
it's Friday.
hearing.
the commissioners will be meeting
Yeah.
if something had to.
Question.
Answer.
Yeah, that's
Go ahead.
the weather.
What about the weather?
Well, it's not supposed to be very good on Friday.
I know.
Okay.
I thought it was Thursday night into Friday.
I don't know. I heard it this Saturday, so I don't know. Okay.
let me ask you a question
Good talk from Newport.
about the budget committee. Are they pretty much firm on Park Street?
Station committee.
Station committee, I'm sorry.
Well, that's what was presented to us last year, was that as the primary, and then potential of a second station down the road.
Yes, is it the charter? No. The charge?
Charge was to establish
Yeah.
a building there, was what the commissioner put forth,
Okay.
based on the recommendation of the previous station committee.
Okay. All right. Anything else at the station committee?
No.
All right, well, thank you for their continued, and I'm, imagine when I was like, wow, yeah, the unanimously knowing the personalities and everything. Good. All right, we'll go back up to the chief's report.
Okay,
I've not had a chance to review.
As today's the 1st, and I was in EMT class all day today, I had very little time to prepare this, and I didn't even have a chance to send it out. So I'll quickly go through it, unless you just want to read it, and if you have any questions, it's entirely up to you how you want to handle that.
Reading it now. No, go ahead.
Engine 2, remaining issues are being addressed as they arise.
Yeah, so the on-spot chains aren't working properly, and they're, and Larry Dingy's working with Suppan to engineer a fix for it.
And so, what's not working with on-spot changes where?
So when they come down,
Mhm.
they come down too low, and the cans touch the ground.
So did Sutphen not realize that there's axle height and then there's weighted axle height and
So-
there's roads?
So that, when we raised the front, it lowered the back. And that's I guess, what you call an unintended consequence.
Oh, so when the initial issues that we had when it came, where the front,
Angle,
so we raised the front and, yeah, I got you. Teeter-totter.
We raised from the axle, the front?
yeah, they put springs that raised the front end up so that we got the angle of attack. This so that we could make it appropriately around the fire district.
So the last time we spoke, they were going to redesign the front bumper, which was giving you that lack of clearance.
They raised the front bumper as far as they could, and it didn't meet our need. So we had to put springs that brought the front of the truck up approximately 2 inches, and that gave us the angle of attack that we needed to get in and out of certain places that we couldn't before. And so now we can get in and out of them, but in doing so, it rotated the body on the rear axle, which lowered the cans to the point where when they come down to throw the wheel onto the tires, those cans are gonna scrape the ground.
Don't the cans go to the front of the rear tires? So that when they spin, they throw the chain under the front of the tire?
I don't know exactly how, whether the cans go this way or the cans go this way.
Well,
It's the way the rubber wheel has to hit and how the can comes down.
because essentially it has to come down to the front so that it throws the chain under the tire to roll over the tire. I guess, just one opinion, doesn't Sutton have engineers that work in the north? This is becoming a problem. Are they gonna give us a rebate and then some? And they're gonna fix the next engine with a major discount?
So the next engine is being designed appropriately.
This one was designed appropriately.
Yeah, well, they lost sight of their engineer, which I have issues with personally now, because he kept saying he was right and it turned out he was wrong. Because when I raised issues with him when I was there, turns out I was right and he was wrong. And he's, they're in Pennsylvania, the chassis is made in Ohio, where their main plant is. The body is made in Pennsylvania because it's a stainless steel body. So they're used to snow. They know what it is. It's been, going through these problems has been an education, but at the same rate, I feel very confident that they are going to be resolved. Because basically, when you look at it, you just need shorter arms on those cans. They can't be as long, they just have to be shorter. And they're just going through their engineering process to get the right arms. All the other stuff has been addressed.
I would like to see correspondence from the manufacturer and you and the chief. I would like to see how much of the correspondence back and forth, because this is an absolute failure of the engineer, and the public is going to be irate about this, probably more so than I am. Maybe not. But I want to see the correspondence back and forth of what they're doing to fix it, to make sure it doesn't happen again, because this is, they didn't sell us the product. They didn't sell us the right product. So at this point, they need to get their thought process in check. And I want a rebate. I want some money back or off the second engine because of all the stuff we've had to go through. So I really want to see some of the correspondences between you and that company.
It'll be between myself, Captain Powell, Larry Dingy, and Sutton, because we're all like...
That's fine. But the commissioners who paid this product are going to be the ones that look like absolute fools. So I want to actually see the communications of Dingy or whoever accepting their oops.
He's not accepting their oops. He's very much in our court, believe it or not. It's
Sutphen or whoever.
Sutphen is overall. I've had the owner of Sutphen personally call me after I called them, her personally. She was away. She called me back on Sunday afternoon one day to explain to me that they're going to fix everything, that her name's on the truck. She's very upset at the way it went, the way things turned out with us. And I mean, for a woman to call me on a Sunday afternoon to assure us that things are going to be made right, and they have made everything right as they come up. This is, I mean, the truck's been in service since Christmas, and it's a good truck. It's already seen fire. It's working. The guys love it.
Wasn't engine one a good truck till it got into an accident, and then we've been chasing it for as long as we owned it?
Engine one.
Or engine three. Engine three.
Yeah.
So now we're starting out with a truck that we had to modify the bumper when we first got it. So we're going to put higher springs on the front to lift it up because we can't lift the bumper up enough. On doing so, we torque it over the rear axle so that our on-spots that we need for winter weather don't work properly. So we're going to change those just to chase more things down the road. I don't want this to be another engine 3. I don't want to be throwing money into this time after time after time after time.
So we're not spending a penny more. We have not spent a single cent more on this truck. It's their problem as well as our problem. But it's their problem to fix, and it's their problem to pay for it.
And how often has it been out of service to go to and from the garage since we've owned it?
It's been back to Dingy once.
Right, but we received delivery, you drove around the road and realized it wasn't gonna fit, then we lost it for 2 days, 2 weeks, a month,
It was, I don't know the time frame, but it was closer to a month.
and when did it arrive?
September sometime?
Okay, so September, so.
So,
Maybe it was later than that.
so
So
this,
5 months, we lost a month of it right off the bat, back to a garage.
I agree with you. I am more than upset and have expressed my upsetness to the owner, the engineer, who I do not talk to anymore.
That's good.
I'm not talking to the engineer. I'm talking to the sales, regional sales rep and the owner of the company.
I mean, we got a second one coming, and yes, they're fixing everything
And-
supposedly, but
And so when I went down to Scottsdale for the fire department safety conference, Sutphen was one of the main things there, and they had my ear for a good hour, and they called me like 4 times while I was at the conference, making sure that assuring me that this is not gonna happen again, and they're gonna fix everything that's wrong with this truck, and it will not happen with the next truck. I want them to change engineers, but it's kind of down the road already.
I just wonder, a year from now, if we're gonna have, are they gonna warranty it a year from now? Because they moved this and it caused a problem here, or, I mean, we're gonna get blamed for it no matter what. It could be, they moved the on-spots, so now, it did something to the truck there, whether it did something to the brake or whatever underneath it, we're gonna get blamed for it, so we're gonna end up paying for it. Are they gonna warranty it for a couple of years, or?
I'm getting, I don't have this in writing yet, but I will get it in writing, that if there's an ongoing issue with the on-spots, or anything else that they had to adjust since this, it's still on them to fix it, whether it's beyond the warranty or not, because this has been an issue that we've been, that they've been aware of in the warranty period, and it should have been right from the beginning, it shouldn't have been a problem. But since it is a problem, even if it extends beyond, but I don't see that happening, but if it did extend beyond, say next year the cans went down and it didn't work for some reason, that's still gonna be on them.
Yeah.
I will have that in writing.
I'm concerned with, they put new springs underneath to lift it up. Might have done something to the transmission.
No, that was just the front, it didn't do anything with the back.
Well,
It's just
anything
rotating it
with the
on the
motor or
axle.
something down the road there, because it's not designed to be lifted up like, how they lift it.
So what they did in actuality is they designed it for those larger springs and then put smaller springs in to make sure that it would meet our height requirement in the fire station. So they were more concerned with the height than with the angle of approach. So they lowered the truck to make sure that it met the height requirement, but in the process lost sight that we still needed this angle of approach.
So does it meet our height requirement of specifications now?
It's 2 inches higher than I wanted it to be.
So it failed to meet our specifications of that.
Yep. But
So once again,
it fits in the
somebody needs
station,
to
so
be
that's the
speaking
main
to
thing.
us and what they want to do to fix this and to make it right.
I agree, this has been a
Well,
trying period.
I want to see I personally want to see communication of what's been going on between you and them, because this is, we heard about the bumper, we knew about the bumper, but then all of a sudden, we put leaves in because we knew, the bumper they couldn't bring up enough, so we had to put leaves in. Okay, and now we have to put, I don't like hearing about things after the fact. And there's been when it's happening, it's kind of like when we talk about when you're a new purchase or something like that, knowing about it rather than signing it, it's too late now.
I think we talked about this before, that we're gonna have to change the springs out.
Maybe you did. The on-spots, this is the first time I've heard anything of it, and the springs, I think I don't retain talking about before. I knew the bumper was going to have to be lifted, and they were going to redesign the bumper to make it fit.
They slid the bumper up as high as they could. They couldn't make it go any higher because then you wouldn't be able to tilt the cab.
Right. That part I remember. The springs, I don't recall, so it could be on my memory. Yeah.
know?
So, 3 members here, no, you didn't, it wasn't brought to us it stands out. And now, I can tell you the on-spots are standing out, coming to us for the first time. The springs, I think you would have seen a very similar reaction, hearing that we had to raise it, because I would have asked you then, do we still meet specifications?
The specifications we put out called for 9'6" maximum height
Okay,
to ensure that we get in the fire station.
right.
When we got it here, it was definitely 9'6". It fit in the fire station with this much to spare. When we went forward, and the bumper didn't fix the issue, the 2-inch lift in the spring kit was brought forward by Larry Dingy, cleared through engineering, and then they asked me if we raised it 2 inches, to help out with the angle of approach. I said, yes, that would work, but let me check with the height. I checked with the height, yes, it fits. I says, okay, then make that fix.
So it fits, which is good.
Oh, if it didn't fit, we wouldn't.
But the truck did not meet specifications. They could not meet our specification by putting in the proper spring. If they put the proper spring in, they did not meet they would not have met our specifications, correct?
Correct.
Then this is an error where it's the engineers, our team talking with them, there is a failure point here.
Oh, I agree. I agree. And you'll see through our emails, I'll try and collect them all into one
Yep.
thing. What's that?
File a thread or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yep, I understand.
Email spread.
Yep.
It'll be a number of them though.
But we gave them a specification. We gave them dollars for that specification. They didn't meet the specification. First off, they cheated on the specification to make it because they didn't even put in the proper size springs that you wanted to do it. On top of that, they couldn't design it properly to what it was. So then they went back to what the engineered spring should have been, which then it takes it out of specifications. On top of that, it is now rotating the truck back on the rear axle a little bit, so now we're having,
On-spot problems.
there is some significant issues here that the public is,
Especially, you know, now that we've got another one. I mean, we probably should have never done that.
yep.
I mean, if this truck doesn't perform the way it should,
Then we'll
it's gonna make us look pretty bad.
I don't care how I look to the public, I just want the trucks to
You know, there again, the public looks at you as a figure
Yeah.
that you should know. Hopefully, when you vote something, they follow,
Mhm.
that you've done your homework and everything, so. I just, you're right, and I know Larry very well, because he built engine 3, and he stood behind his work for a lot of years, even stuff that, but there again, like I said, we had specifications that weren't met, so.
Mm-hmm. First step is definitely look at the threads and read through them.
Do we get Larry Dingy here?
Probably.
Well, he's just the middle person.
Okay,
He's a
but,
supplement
okay, but
engineers.
he's the sales guy.
He was a sales representative that
He's the sales guy.
representing Sutphen in this
And,
deal.
Who's that, Larry?
Yeah.
Larry's on our side from what I understood from the chief.
Larry
Right,
was
and,
always on that side.
But
Right,
but reading an email thread is good, but he needs to understand that we just spent $700,000
Times two.
times 2, so we've spent $1.4 million, and if we're gonna get the same engine, we gotta figure it out. And he needs to understand that it's wrong. And no, nothing against the chief,
No.
but going back and forth with emails, but, you know, the taxpayer, we answer to the taxpayers, and I sometimes just say, get him here, but
Okay.
I'm one of
I'll
3,
see if he can come to our next meeting.
which is next
Who's that,
week,
Larry?
Yeah.
next Tuesday.
Yeah, I know him very well. I mean, I remember when he delivered engine 3. I remember this day simply because he drove it down here. We had a structure fire, and I actually went. He brought it down. I drove the truck, and he actually showed me how to run it right there. It was amazing. I mean, he says, "Wow, I can't believe this. Come down and have a fire like this."
This issue is only when you put the chains on.
Yeah.
Right, it's not going down the road and the cans are hitting the road right now,
No,
it's just only when you put it
down
on.
to this, no.
So,
So they swing, I assume they are the type that swing up out of the way when
Yeah.
they're not in use, and then they swing down and then centrifugal
Yeah.
force, it goes under the tire and kicks and keeps going.
Yeah, there's a rubber wheel that hits the tire that causes the chain to spin underneath the tire.
Right. That's the motor for.
No, I just wanna make sure we're not driving around hitting the cans on the road.
No,
You know,
No.
because frosty season's coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What we need to do is, hey, what was that? And I think it's great, read the emails, but I think just seeing,
With that being said, where's A2 and A1 at? Are we gonna have any surprises with those? I know they're a different company, but
yeah. So A1 is on the road working.
that's a Chevy,
It's
right?
got about, no,
Oh,
A2,
I'm sorry, A2 here, engine one was the one going, I misread.
Yeah.
That A2, okay,
the new A2 is expected to be here
that's one.
late winter, early spring.
And how do we know that we're not gonna have same engineer oversight?
The new A2 is exactly the same as the old A1, the current A1.
Is that what, E1?
The A2, the new ambulance.
It's
The fact that we're going through this with engines, I really don't wanna be stepping into going through this with ambulances too.
I don't see it. I mean, any of the issues that we had with the new A1 being a new chassis and that we hadn't had before and things like that, we addressed and we made sure they were addressed in the new A2. So there doesn't need to be anything there should not be anything that needs to be addressed in the new A2. It should come here, get leaded, equipped and put on the road.
So should a engine do.
Should have.
So right now, our track history is not very comforting.
Well,
So are we gonna send people out and just making sure that there's no surprises on that? Or is it gonna show up and we're just gonna put it in service and,
no, so we'll have our inspection of A2 at the dealership before we accept it to make sure that's appropriate.
The E1, what we
The
do?
engine one, we're going out to the factory. We're scheduled to go out in July for that.
So you're gonna look at the bumper, you're gonna look at
We're
this.
gonna- We have a very good checklist to go through now to make sure that, even though it's gonna look identical, it won't be, because it'll be engineered to meet the specifications, not altered after we find out that it doesn't meet the specifications.
so when we received engine 2 to ensure that it met all specifications, you had a team go through it, or Larry Dingy went through it, or whoever that went through the specifications, say, it has this check, it has this check, it has this check.
So, yes, we went out to the factory for engine 2 as well. And that's where I arose the issue of the angle of
That part.
and they brought out the drawings and all that, the engineer says, the drawings, say, look, the drawings, this is it, that's what it is. I says, well, what about the auxiliary crank? I says, no, it falls within that angle of approach line, these are the plans we built it by. And then we had a string across a garage door to make sure so when we left there, we were fully thinking that it met the specs. But when it arrived, and I'm looking at the bumper again, I says, take it down the road and take it to these couple spots where we know there's a problem. And it was a problem. And if it was built to the plans, like the plan said it was, it wouldn't have been a problem. So then we get the protractor and the rulers out, and we actually measured the angle, and it wasn't what it was supposed to be. So that's how it all started. So we're bringing all that stuff out with us to make sure that the new one.
Okay, that's kind of what I was, so,
So I guess you would want Larry down here so we can address some of it, or?
yeah,
Okay.
we put
I
specifications
know,
out
yeah,
there.
I agree.
So first off, Sutton shortchanged the spring expectation. to kind of get, oh, we'll get under the height if we do this. I mean, this is something that in reality should be going on their webpage as a customer view back at them so other people can learn from this mistake down before they deal with it down the road. It's like, hey, by the way, watch your springs because they're going to shortchange your spring height to cheat the system. It's bad PR and
Oh, yeah, I agree.
It's today, okay.
I have a question
Yes,
on overlapping side. We received 0 mutual aid engine. Wasn't there a fire on Bean Hill that would receive mutual aid?
that was the previous one, wasn't it? No, that was,
That was in January.
well, it didn't come out in the report then. So like I say, the reports are still a work in progress, and I'm trying to make sure they're accurate, but.
No, I'm like, really? I only asked because I happened to be listening to, I saw the thing that day. So. I don't know the date, I just bring it.
Let's see, that was
When you were in Arizona.
in Arizona.
Yes, you were. So it was at the beginning of the month,
Yep.
second week.
on page 2, additional borings to take place tomorrow for the tower.
Yep.
Is there going to be guy wires and stuff now?
No.
Okay, it's still going to stay on the initial
Yes.
frame going up. The additional borings are for what?
They have done 2 borings now, and they've developed 2 different sets of plans for the foundation, which are expensive, and the engineer said if you bore a little deeper, maybe we can come up with a plan that'll do the job that we needed to do at a less cost. So they're exploring their options.
Okay. But overall, the tower is still going to be the triangular or square
It's on the
footprint. There's no change to that,
None of that's
and
changed.
everything else is going to be in, so we
In
don't have
fact, the
guy
tower
wires.
is already,
Okay.
all the pieces for the tower are at the railing.
It's on the 11th.
No, it was on the 12th.
Oh.
And
So on
it doesn't show,
111, it says building fire Northfield.
and on the 12th it says building fire Northfield.
That's because it ended on the 12th.
But there was no,
I'm trying to find them.
I just was bringing
it says Gilmanton station coverage.
Oh, you're right, it did go the day before the Gilman.
Yeah.
Let's see Northfield then.
You have a building fire on, oh, I see on the 12th.
Right.
No, Kathy's correct, it was on the 12th.
It was on the 12th, and this,
It
it says station coverage, but it doesn't say anything about who.
Right.
But it could be call company personnel.
Right.
It's not like Loudon came up to the fire. Concord couldn't come because they had their own fire.
Yeah, Loudon was,
Oh, it does, here it is, yeah. Mutual aid received. But this is one of the problems with the new report, is that it doesn't tell me what we receive. And then I have to go into the report and look at the narrative to see if someone put in the narrative what we received from other towns. This is one of the things we're trying to fix, that's supposed to show up automatically, but it doesn't, and if they don't put it in the narrative, I don't see it.
Okay.
So we did receive mutual aid engine. It wasn't Franklin, they were busy.
No, it was like
it
Loudon.
was Laconia,
Laconia.
Belmont,
And
Loudon,
Sanford?
and Sanford, yeah.
Yeah. So yes, we did, but
I'll just
it's not in the report.
happen to remember that one, sorry.
I just requested that your shift captain, whoever's putting it in, just another part of their report annotation amongst everything else they're trying to keep track of.
So, yeah, so we're trying to get the report in a manner so that they, when they click mutual aid,
Yeah.
received, that they can check off
Drop
the,
down or something.
out of a drop-down box,
Yeah.
the apparatus from the mutual aid. But we have to,
We're
'cause
building
they're-
them.
we're building
Right,
them.
yeah, to build from scratch, yeah.
And we're talking to the state because those ambulances, like we get mutual aid ambulance, they're already in the system, and if we put them again in our system, are they gonna start showing up twice? Is one of the software developer guys trying to figure that out.
That's a fair concern. But if not, in at least the note narrative, they could do a quick summary of their sheet
Yeah.
that they're putting in as a Band-Aid until you get the actual
Mhm.
full report, and then you'd at least have that metric to go back to.
Right, so sometimes it's in there, sometimes it's
Yeah.
not.
Where's Lena Lane at Tilton?
No. Oh, it's Conti Gianni.
Oh,
That's
okay.
Michelle.
Yeah, okay.
I took a vacation too in June this month, so that's why the number's kind of low.
What?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to book him when he's not here.
It was January was a very, very busy month for us.
Yeah. I don't know a lot of calls.
Yeah.
We did a lot of calls, and a lot of the calls were simultaneous calls. It was like, if we got one call, we got another one right away. And it was-
Good calls too.
Yeah. So, depending on
So
what
you
end-
had
what end of the
66%
client-
enroll incident, so you had 120, out of 280 incidents, 128 were rolled out. Wow.
Yeah,
I think that's the highest we've ever seen.
it is.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
3/4 overall, I think.
Went on, like I said, I went on a lot of calls.
And you went on vacation,
Yeah. I didn't go anywhere, but I didn't come here.
a staycation.
Vacation, yes.
Sometimes those are the best ones. Right. Any more questions? You all set with this? All right. Let's see, we'll move down, where are we going now? New business, warrant article assignments.
Okay, so you need to decide who's going to speak to what warrant article.
Did we do that already?
No, we
No,
didn't
you
assign
did
them.
not assign them.
All right.
And I forgot to print them off, but I can tell you what they are. You give me half a second.
Were there any,
We had no petition warrant
Thank you.
articles, which ended today,
That's what.
so I'll be able to finish
Okay.
everything tomorrow. So, let's see. Adding to the land and building fund,
I'll take it.
okay?
That's number one.
That is number 5. Fire prevention expendable trust fund, adding to it.
I'll do that. What number is that?
Number 6.
Well, we meet again anyway, so we'll get the.
Well, you'll be handed this Friday night for the budget public hearing. Warrant Article 7 is the fire prevention budget, taking it from the expendable trust fund to fund it for 2022.
We'll do that one too, since it's tied into 6.
The health insurance, Article 8, the health insurance deductible expendable trust fund.
I'll do that.
Number 9, the communications tower expendable trust fund, moving $2,500 from the unassigned fund balance because it's split 50/50.
Yep.
Is that you, John?
Sure.
Number 10, the dry hydrant cistern expendable trust fund, this is to open it.
I wrote dry, not John.
Number 11 is to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to fund it.
I'll do that thing. Oh, where's dry hydrant, not pressurized hydrant, but there's a good reason why we need the dry hydrant.
Number 12 is establishing the contingency fund,
Which contingency fund?
the one for 2022, for $29,404.
That's that 10% or?
Yes,
1% of the previous voted.
so that's you, Eric?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. Number 13, the pressurized hydrants.
Sure.
That's gonna be a,
Sure.
You
I'll
want that
take it.
one?
that's
Okay.
gonna be a tough one.
I'll take it.
Number 14, the apparatus and equipment fund budget.
Okay, I'll do that.
Number 15, the new command vehicle.
I'll do it.
Number 16, the operating budget.
I'll do it, I don't care. It's fine.
And number 17 is to transact any other business. And that's the end.
Easy.
Yeah.
I get to have fun.
I'm going to say yours is going to gather the most
Uh-huh.
discussion.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I have no problem with that.
Can you get us like a cheat sheet?
You will definitely have that. I'll hand it to you Friday night.
Because I'm out of town for 2 days before this, so.
Yeah, I know okay if I give it to you Friday night.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I just, or if you can email it, just so I can read it
Sure.
and like.
So Friday night is the budget committee's
They,
portion of it. We're just,
We do the warrant, and then it's our,
Right.
our hearing on the warrant articles.
right, the
On the
budget
warrant
committee is
article.
first, and then the commissioners are second.
right,
That's upstairs, yeah.
Yes,
It's 6.
yes.
It's not my call.
Well,
Not my call either.
is that,
What's
when's the
the
last
post
day for the hearing?
The 11th.
The 11th?
Yeah. I think Friday's the first day. Right?
Something like that, yeah.
1 week.
Right.
We got a snowstorm every other week, but you still.
Well, no, actually, because Tilton's budget committee hearing is tomorrow night.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but their meeting is 3 days earlier too, so we changed the calendar. Oh, oh,
No, we still fall within the same.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's done. Anything else on the warrant article signs?
No.
COVID equipment grant.
So actually, both municipalities, Tilton and Northfield, the grant has been approved. The process is for us to buy the equipment, give and pay for it, give copies of the invoice and proof of payment to each town. The towns then submit that proof of invoice and payment to Gopher, and then Gopher reimburses the towns, and then the towns reimburse the fire district.
How long does that take?
Well,
It's what, 28,000? Is it $28,000 each, or is it 14 each? in total?
it's
That's what
more
I
than
thought.
that. It's somewhere around 14,000 for the ventilator each,
Yeah.
and somewhere around $4,000 for the medical
All right.
ultraviolet light each. So that'll put one ventilator in each ambulance and one medical UV light in each fire station.
Cool.
And I talked to the guy from the ventilator company, and they're like 90 days out. So I will, unless you guys disagree with the process, I will get the process moving forward tomorrow. The other thing I didn't put on the list because I was
I might get it in time with the new info.
maybe. I distributed the latest version of the capital improvement program, which shows the current expected expenditures for 22 and the actual revenue and expenditures in each line in 2021. And at the very bottom of these lines, you'll see what the expected balance is at the end of every year. And I usually look at this, 2-3 times a year, just to make sure everything's flowing properly. And that's all that I have.
Can I just ask one thing, and then, can you freeze the page or copy it and just, so like, when we get to page 2, I know if I'm looking at E1, because I just get confused.
Oh, so you want the vehicle to carry over?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
What's B1? Oh, it's both. All right, anything else on that? All right, review the minutes of January 5th.
So I was just looking at them real quick. We had a question left over from last time. About the electrical, you said you were going to look into it. Last month I asked why the electricity was higher than what was budgeted, and you replied that they don't have any new appliances that would draw more power, but would look into it. Any word?
I have no reason why the electric bill was higher than it was, other than it was just general use.
Okay. So,
There's-
leaving stuff on, or I don't remember how much it was over by, and we didn't have that in the minutes, but I just remember that was something, so. Yeah.
The only thing that we are doing, we have a UV light that we move around from room to room to help disinfect the atmosphere.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's doing it
I
or
don't
not.
know if that's all right.
We're also using the commercial dryers
More?
almost every day, because that's how we are deconning our SCBA and our apparatus, the regulators and everything, so they're going in there to get heated up and decontaminated as well. So that's taken place quite a bit.
Is that a change in practice this year that might have made a difference?
Last year with
Yes.
COVID, yes.
Okay, so that's probably a chance of where that variance came from your estimated budgeting was a change in practice of that.
And we're using them for bed bug exposures and things like
Okay.
that, so we didn't have those before, so.
Okay.
That could be potentially it.
Change in practice, that makes sense.
Yeah, for the bed bugs, you want to cook those suckers.
Yeah, no kidding.
So far I'm good on the 5th, I'm looking at the 11th right now as well.
I looked at it.
Yeah, it went up like $500 roughly.
Yeah,
But-
it was
But
something,
Park Street was down.
but still, it was just a significant jump that had the question, but a change in practice
Yeah.
potentially could have identified that much of a
There's
difference.
really nothing new there, we're just
Right.
using it more.
That's why I was shocked when I saw it. Okay, those are the articles. 11th, we just talked about the warrant articles, and that was really it. We're out of here by 6:35.
That was a quick one.
Yeah, it was a quick one.
Gee, if I stay home sick more, maybe it'll get out earlier.
So it was worth it.
And that was it for our
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes, January 5th and January 11th, 2022, as written.
second.
Motion is second. Any other discussion?
No.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Next is sign manifests.
And then meeting dates is February 8th, even though we have one before that.
The 4th,
I think the 8th is to go over any changes and,
if we need to.
Right, because you have to sign the warrant, and then are you gonna wanna meet again after you get a revised contract? After you make the phone calls regarding Alan?
This will be cleared up by tomorrow.
so my question is, could we technically,
We could technically not have to meet on the 8th.
if we sign that agreement on the 4th?
Well, then you'll have to hold a meeting on the 4th,
What do you
because
mean?
it's just public hearing.
Oh, I see what you're
You
saying.
can, but that's easy enough.
Well,
You have to post it as
It has to be
Posted no more
posted, and you
than-
don't know what
okay.
time it'll be.
I say we just keep it on the 8th, and we keep it
Yeah.
as a meeting, and if we have to.
Okay, and I have disposition
Can we
reports
do
too.
the 8th? We do the 8th? And we'll have the questions answered by then, and then we can vote. This way, it's not delaying us a month, it's only delaying his start.
It's only a week.
Right.
And then
Hopefully his start.
you can do the disposition reports as well that night,
Okay.
because I didn't put it on the agenda for tonight. And it's almost 8 o'clock now, so.
All right. Is there, we don't have to be in sessions, do we?
No.
No. So is there any other business to come before this board this evening? No. Anyone else have anything? Paul, do you have anything?
No, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. I'll second it. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 7:49. And now I hit stop.
You got the button.
2:20. Wow, we went long.
Yes.